Yesterday, I spent the morning home with my 4-year-old daughter, Maytal, who was recovering from the stomach flu. And so we sat in our living room together, playing, I with a metal container on my lap for a drum, Maytal with her guitar. Things were great, almost perfect, except for the occasional run to the bathroom for her to vomit and the pinging of messages on my cell phone. It was just as an important message came in about a congregant's health that she caught me in a way that she often does, sharing my energy. She asked me a question. Paying half attention to her and the email, I answered, yeah, Maytal. Ima, she said, that's not the yes I want. Give me the other yes. The other yes? What do you mean, Maytal? I asked her. The kind of yes where I know you're listening, she says. It's more like, yes. Not like, yeah, yes. Wow, I paused. Who knew I had two different yeses, let alone that my 4-year-old could tell the difference between them? I paused. I put my phone down on the coffee table. I turned toward her with my whole body and heart, my complete 100% motherly attention, and said, Maytal, tell me your question again, and I'm going to try my best to give you the yes you're asking for. There are many limited resources in our lives and our world, and attention is just one of them, but quite likely it is the most valuable of them in this crazy digital age in which we live. I believe our love is limitless. Our attention, unfortunately, is not. Rabbi Angela Bachdal, senior rabbi at Central Synagogue in New York, shares in her beautiful new memoir, Heart of the Stranger, a related poignant message. She writes, ultimately, our lives will be the sum of what we've given our attention to. Ultimately, our lives will be the sum of what we've given our attention to. So as you set your priorities, she writes, think hard about where you are placing your heart. As the phrase in Hebrew for attention, tisomet lev, literally means to place your heart. Where are we placing our hearts these days? To what and to whom are we paying attention in our lives? And not just attention, but as I was caught by my 4-year-old, full attention. Not watching a show while exercising, not taking a walk or run while listening to a podcast, not checking your email while your child or your spouse is asking you a question. Full attention, fully present with who and what we are doing, fully placing our heart in the hands of who is in front of us, to listen to them, to know them, to be with them and connect with them, heart to heart. It's hard, right? At times it's really hard. So hard that we see a moment in this week's Torah portion where even one of our biblical ancestors, Esau, gives away his own birthright while he's focused instead on a bowl of soup. And later, his father doesn't fully pay attention to recognize his own son, mistaking Jacob for Esau. Isaac is older, and the text of Genesis tells us that his eyes have dimmed at this time. But nevertheless, we can't help but wonder, is he really fooled by the food brought and the costume that Jacob adorns? Could he really mistake his own son for the other? A midrash in Bereshit Rabbah suggests that Isaac's limited perspective resulted not so much from his limited vision, but from him focusing elsewhere rather than on his son. The midrash suggests that Isaac's attention at this moment when Jacob came to him for the blessing was upon the meat that Jacob brought to him, just as Esau had done in the past. This seems a little ridiculous on the one hand, at such a pivotal moment in his son's life, until we look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what things do we focus on and get distracted by, even in our own close relationships and important life moments? Do you see your son or daughter, or just the grades and the girlfriend or boyfriend they brought home from school? One of the truisms of parenting is that we cannot make our children in our image. Will we take the time to notice who they have matured into becoming? Do you see your mother, or just her newest ailments, as you schlep her to her doctor's appointments and can't help but notice her declining health? Do you see your friend or relative, or just whatever you are cooking or scrolling through while talking to them? I recall one memorable Thanksgiving in my childhood in which my grandmother and father were fighting over the gravy, how thick it should be, and how long the turkey should cook before it was overcooked. Back and forth, while I stood there sheepishly in between them in the kitchen, waiting to help prepare the rest of the meal. Just as the conversation got even more heated and I was preparing to make a graceful exit from these two dueling chiefs of the kitchen, I witnessed this. Suddenly, the gravy was knocked off the counter. It went flying into the air. It spilled on the floor into a wet, gloopy, gizzardy mess. It was disastrous for our meal that year, but such a blessing for our relationships. I was so relieved that we could finally all focus on what mattered, not this dead bird or the density of the sauce, but the living, loving people sitting around the table with us. What actually really mattered on that Thanksgiving day as any other, not the meat, but the people. It wasn't me who knocked the gravy off the counter that day, but if I ever happened to be in the middle of a contentious argument again, focused on some distracting minutia, rather than a loved one who has traveled in their later years from many states away to spend a family holiday or simcha together, I would happily be the one to toss the gravy or just about anything edible or electronic into the air and gladly clean it up afterwards if it meant we could all just direct our hearts to what mattered. Ultimately, our lives will be the sum of what we've given our attention to. What will that be for me and for you? The gravy or your granddaughter? Shabbat Shalom and happy Thanksgiving.